All right. I am super excited to be chatting with Kristyn and Clay from Daedric. And I want to dive right in and get into the origins, where I like to start. But take us back pre-Daedric. You guys have been working in another band together going back a little ways. So how did you first get involved in music together, and take us from the prior band, or maybe there's even multiple bands. I don't know the full history. So, how did that set up into what became Daedric?
Back in, let's see, 2015, I was doing cover bands for a living. And that's how I was first introduced to Kristyn. And she was working with the company for a little bit. And then a couple years later, after we had both left the cover band, we decided that it might be fun to kind of explore our own original music. We originally had an idea of doing some pop music. Um, and that was okay, but I always had like an urge to do something a little bit heavier. And at first, I wasn't sure she was wanting to do that or if she was capable of doing a style of music like that. Um, so then I slowly started introducing her into like heavier music and stuff like that. And we just experimented. We just kind of realized like, hey, like we could really do something exciting with this. So we formed the band. It was called ASOP. And then for about 2 years, we really worked hard on that and kind of got used to, being co-workers together and co-writers together, and her growth within that 2 years was just incredible. This was before she was screaming and stuff, but every song I noticed like immense improvement with her lyric writing and her music style. And then when we got to the point to starting Daedric, we had learned so much together with our years of doing ASOP that we were ready to kind of like really push the boundaries of what the musical genre we would do and styles like that. I'll let her pick up from here.
Yeah, so we were obviously, deep into Aesop, and I had been interested in screaming. I never thought I would go that far because I was always worried about the vocal damage of it. Um, but during COVID, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. You just might as well try. You have nothing to lose right now. And I ended up linking up with Cheney from Entheos, and she was my first like screaming vocal coach, and she was awesome. Got some pointers from her, and then we introduced some of that a little bit into Aesop, and then we were doing like covers here and there, and then of course with Daedric, it just was something that really took off, and we've enjoyed doing that and integrating it more into the actual music.
Where in that process did you guys connect with, and how would you describe how things came together with Jeff Rockwell, who's another member of the production team?
Well, I'll just say when during that time, it was when people would just randomly DM me on Facebook, and most of the time I ignored it. I was like, I don't know these people; they're just randos. And Jeff had sent a very long, basically a cold call message, and I was like, this is quite lengthy. I was like, is this spam? And I showed Clay, and he was like, oh my God, no, that's Jeff Rockwell. And I'm like, I'm supposed to know this. I don't know who this is. I don't know anything. And so he was just like, no, this is a big deal. This guy worked with Forever the Sickest Kids. Like, he's a big name. And so we met up with him, and he talked to us about, FiXT, and he was like, I really think this is a perfect fit for you guys for what you're doing. I see the potential. I see like how you can fit into this certain niche that they're working with the electronic and the nerdy the stuff that he was saying. And I was like, yep, I'm nerdy. I can do this. And so we just
I,
from there it worked.
I think the biggest thing with Jeff is, Daedric was honestly his brainchild. Even though a lot of the creative decisions are made by me and Kristyn, it was his initial idea of doing a project like this that really unlocked our potential. We come from such a DIY background of making videos, doing photos, everything like that, and booking shows. We did all that ourselves, and so with joining forces with Jeff and then eventually signing with FiXT, we were able to kind of harness some of those and basically aim our creativity and aim our inspiration to something that's now become Daedric.
I remember when Jeff first reached out to us, because we were already working with Jeff. He was a behind-the-scenes production member of the group Prism that had worked with FiXT, and he's like, I got something else for you. And Jeff is known for just the quality of stuff that he brings. So we're like, okay, like it's going to be good. And it was like packaged, sealed, and delivered. Like, oh, this is exactly something that would fit in our world. So, yeah, we're super excited that Jeff had connected all of these dots, and here we are today. Going back to early Daedric, then when you first started talking with Jeff and you were writing what became the debut album, what were the first few songs that you worked on, if you recall, and did it feel like all new territory, or was it very much a continuation of Aesop, or did it feel very different?
I know we wanted to differentiate it from the beginning. We were trying to make sure that it wasn't just a copy paste at all. And when we went into Wretched, which was the first single, and that's the one that we obviously pitched to you guys, we knew we needed to make sure that it sounded more into that synth, dark, electronic realm. Aesop was a little bit more the prog rock, and so it felt very different to me, for sure.
It really did, and honestly, Wretched would never have come to be without Jeff's influence. We had a meeting. I went home and wrote one guitar riff, and that was the intro riff that everyone knows so well. Sent that to him, and then within like 3 weeks, he sent like a draft essentially of the entire song. So it's amazing like how that kind of set the tone of what Daedric was essentially going to be. But as we started writing, we had songs like Wretched, we had Nascent, and we had Sepulchre. And I feel like those three kind of fit that mold of the synthwave dark rock style. But, you can't really take the metalhead out of me. Like, I kept kind of being like trying to figure out like, where are we going to fit in like this other side that we want to do? Because I love writing heavier stuff. So one day I came in and I brought Mortal, and then I just played it for Jeff just to be like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, we have to use that song. And immediately I was like, no, that's not our sound. It's too heavy. So that kind of like showcases the growth that we took within producing the album Mortal. You hear the variety, you hear the variation in style. I'd say by the end of it, we kind of like locked in on like what we wanted to essentially sound like going forward.
I also want to mention, I don't think we talk about this a lot, but the first version of Wretched is nothing like the one you hear now. It was actually way more like Linkin Park. The chorus was something along the lines of Crawling. And I remember when we showed it to Jeff and he's like, no, it needs to be like this. And he did this like crazy, he's the one that wrote the chorus melody. And I was just like, this is not anything like what we wrote, but okay. And we worked with it and I'm like, I'm just going to trust you. But
We need to go back and uncover the original demo version and bring it back sometime.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that too, about doing a VIP remix with a heavier style down the line. But when you're promoting an album and doing the song so much, you honestly just want to kind of move on and do new stuff.
For sure. Yeah, as the album progressed, there was definitely an evolution to a heavier sound, and Alchemy, Mortal, some of the songs later in the cycle definitely really transitioned to that heavier side. Where does that set up where you guys are going next? I know you've got a collab coming out soon with Dal Av, and then new material on the horizon. Where are your heads at with what you're writing currently?
I would say I want to continue stretching the extremes. So the Dalav one is heavy hitter, no doubt. That one's a very intense song. And then we have stuff that I want to get even softer and be okay with, trying out some genre bending and just exploring, because for me that's the biggest part of creating music is I want to be experimental always. I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, and I think going into the first album, a lot of the songs that we presented to Jeff were like more like ideas. They weren't exactly fleshed out. But this time around, we're coming to the table. We're giving a lot more to Jeff to work with, like already finished songs, so that way we kind of like know the direction we want to go. And I know his influence is going to continue to help balance that, heavy with the synth and the pop. But yeah, just like Kristyn said, we want to keep that diversity. A lot of bands, I think, get, I guess, kind of scared as they develop their sound. Oh, well, this song we did really well, so we need to stick to the style. But I think that what makes Daedric unique is we're not afraid to take chances. We're not afraid to shake it up and have a really diverse selection for an album.
Talk about how that has played into some of the collaborations you've done, because you've done a number of collabs featuring with other artists, or remixing and reimagining some other artist's song as a form of a collab. Are there any collabs that are more special to what you guys did with them, but how you think about approaching future collabs, and does that give you a different train of thought or a different thought process going into a collaboration versus your originals?
Do you want to take this? Do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, with the remix and collab stuff, it was honestly something new that was taught to us kind of when we joined FiXT. I've heard of it before, but I never really thought about bands actually doing it. And so it's been really exciting because the way we approach remixes and collaborations is it's even more of a like place where a safe place where you can take a risk or take a chance. So one of my personal favorites was the one we did with Cell Dweller. The End of the World. I felt like it was a really great blend that showcased, they took a great song and then showcased Kristyn's vocals and how it gave it new life, essentially.
Totally.
It became a remix of a remix. So funny.
It was back to normal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where do covers fit into the musical landscape that is Daedric? And for there's a whole social side of things with TikTok and YouTube, and then officially releasing music to all the major DSPs. I don't know if I'd say strategy, but at least part of the ethos of what Daedric has become. Like, there is an element that you guys have leaned into with covers.
So what essentially was a social tool and a way for Kristyn to practice her vocal technique, it became more of an identity. And so as we got to the rollout of Mortal, we've really changed that strategy up. Like, we are grateful for what it provided us as far as a fan base and social recognition, but we realized eventually it was also hurting the brand. So one thing I think that goes back to the remix thing about taking chances. When we approach covers now, we now do open verses, and so it's a way for her to still essentially do a cover, but basically put a new twist on it by composing over the original song. But that's another thing we've learned in the 3 years with FiXT. It's just taking chances, not being afraid to adapt your strategy, because it doesn't hurt you to have eyes on you. Even if there's negative comments or people that aren't interested in what you're doing, there's still the people that hear you or see you for the first time. So that's important, because every day someone will discover an artist that, even if they're extremely established, they've never heard of before. And so if that's through a cover or if that's through a photo, then it's just as important as, catching them with your branding, and you want to kind of sink them in. And so we've always made sure that we cross post our data. So if we have a social media content for Twitter exclusively, we'll make sure to put it on Threads, put it on YouTube communities, make sure that we're really covering all our bases, and it's sticking to a growth strategy that pulls people in. And we can see the numbers every day. They grow, they fluctuate, but there's always some form of growth that's going on with these covers. Yeah.
Totally. You guys have also, released some official covers, like the 115, the Call of Duty cover. But going back to socials, this has been, a huge platform that you've been able to capitalize on, being on camera, being a personality, engaging with your fans, building a fan base through, TikTok and video, YouTube, all the short form video platforms. What was this something new starting with Daedric? Had you ever done this previously, personally, or with any of the other projects?
Nothing super official. We had done some during COVID just to kind of practice and learn some new techniques as I would delve into the actual vocal styles and try to bring them into my own. And I'd always done covers and things, growing up. I was really into karaoke and I was on SoundCloud doing covers and stuff. But I would never release anything. Actually my SoundCloud still exists, and sometimes I go back and listen and it's pretty terrible. But it's okay. It's part of the project,
They're private though,
No, you can
or are
find
they
it, but
public?
the name is
Oh,
just nothing
yeah.
related to anything you'll find, but it's just funny because I'll go back and I'm like, oops, that's a miss.
What, during the process of the debut Daedric album, was there a point that you recall, each of you individually, and maybe it was the same moment, where you thought there's something here, like there is something here, we're gonna take this somewhere? Did that moment happen for you, or has that happened yet?
For me, for sure, as soon as Wretched dropped, we knew something. We felt there was like, wow, there's people want to hear this sound. Like, it was that immediate pressure. And I think that pressure was good because it motivated us to really dive in and not be afraid to put in the extra work and the extra time to grow this.
What about you, Kristyn?
I would say for me, for some reason, a very like key defining moment was when Metal Hammer reached out for an interview. Like we actually met with her and we did kind of a video interview, and I was like, huh, that's like a legit, press. Like this is not, the local news. This is like someone who actually does music stuff. And then when I found our feature in the magazine with Sleep Token, I was literally in the same salon. I was looking through the magazine because my friend loves Sleep Token, and I was like, wait, that's me. And so I read it, and I didn't even know we were in there, and I thought that was awesome.
That's awesome. What about hearing your music for the first time in a trailer for a video game?
I mean, yeah, that was awesome too. That was
Also a
quite the little
surprise.
surprise because, yeah, it was a nice little surprise. But honestly, that was like a day one goal for us. Like when we initially talked about the project, we were all kind of, daydreaming about the sense of like showing up in a trailer, getting synced with something really cool, and that was one of those moments where it's just, all right, like we got to keep doing this, we got to keep pushing. And I'm not gonna lie, there's days where it's really hard. There's days where you put in a lot of work and you don't get a lot of output. But we know that the consistency of putting in that work, whether we're tired or not, will lead to something else. And the biggest lesson I think is not being afraid to take chances. In our past experience with previous projects, we would be so um, particular about the way things looked or sounded before they released, but it became a detriment to the content or the creation process, waiting so long to put it out there, to release and move on. With Daedric, yeah, not everything we do is perfect. Not everything we do is exactly how we want it executed, but we still do it. We learn from it and then we adapt and then keep going.
On the flip side of that, for me, we've also gotten to a point where we're not afraid to just completely scrap something and throw it away because we look at it and we're like, this isn't good enough. This is not what represents
No.
how we want to be, and just being okay with saying, I know I spent 5,000 hours on this, but it's just not it. And moving on.
Are you talking about the vampire skit we did?
Oh, there's so many of those. There's so many skits and things that have not made it. Oh my god. No, there's some horrible
Yeah.
cringe things. Oh my god. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just see Clay, you playing these memories back in your mind over there. Like, yeah.
I think we'll share them with you one day just for fun.
Mm,
All right.
no. No, no, no. Those will be deleted.
Uh, how about when the project first started, there was kind of an era, the first several songs, there was a trilogy of music videos, and obviously, or not so obviously, to potentially some people, there's a huge video game inspiration. I know Elder Scrolls has been, a very big part of the story or inspiration for some of what you've done. What was those first few songs, that trilogy of songs? Can you describe what you guys were going for in that era, and then how it evolved? Because you have kind of evolved some of the look and style and the videos and the visuals. But I think tying it back to where it started from to kind of understand the evolution would be interesting to hear.
Man, these
Yeah.
questions are really good.
I would say for me, I knew I wanted to be fairly vague about tying it directly to Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls in general, because I wanted to be careful about not just ripping off something and using that, purely alone. I wanted to make sure we mixed in some of our own personal stuff. Um, I would say in the beginning, I also wasn't sure how we wanted to come off in terms of personality. And I think Wretched, you can see a clear difference between Wretched and Mortal. I was kind of blindly following whatever the director told me in Wretched, where they were like, "Oh, sing pretty, like don't really sing, just lip sync, and don't look sexy or whatever." And I was just kind of like, I feel weird about this, but what do I know? I haven't done music videos like that, like too many of those. So I was like, let's try it. Whatever, we'll go for a look. And I remember when we were working on the video, I was kind of like, oof, I don't love this. I don't love the way I feel about it. And so one thing that has really, really changed is you'll see I'm willing to express myself more in the actual videos. In Mortal, I was actually screaming because I felt I needed to make it feel real, because I can see the difference when the scream I'm doing doesn't match up. If I was to lip sync the screams for Mortal, it just wouldn't feel quite right. So being okay with looking a little ugly,
Yeah.
and I'm more than happy to be more crazy looking than pretty. Like I would much rather it be an authentic performance rather than just looking good.
So when we started Daedric, it was all Kristyn behind the storyboarding and the planning and the concept. I just kind of was like, yeah, well, whatever's gonna make you inspired to showcase and to grow with this project. And as we went along in each video, I kind of started taking more of a hand in the producing and the directing. So Mortal, we spent like 3 months kind of playing that out and really knowing that was going to be the formation of our ideas kind of meeting, taking the more modern side and taking the lore side that she had created to create this more definitive version that showcased the band for the first time. When we had done the trilogy, we really were so focused on establishing Kristyn and establishing the lore that was heavily influenced with Elder Scrolls. And it just kind of worked out that when we had done Dawnbreaker, we're like, we can feature elements that she had done in the previous videos and really bring this idea home by Dawnbreaker. And that's why it was really cool. But I felt like Dawnbreaker lacked the energy that Mortal provided with the full band and with the full-on performance. So once again, like, Daedric wasn't like a fleshed out idea when we launched Wretched. It was, something that we had to grow upon and build upon with each release. And by the time we wrapped Mortal, we both felt so much more confident in the project and much more confident in us as artists as well.
Of all the music videos you've done, which you have quite a few now, what were some of the favorite moments that might not be obvious to fans from watching the final version that they see, but the experience you actually had being on set, or if there was any crazy stories that of something ridiculous that happened or went wrong and that fans just never would have had any insight to.
Oh, we have so many. Do you want to tell them, or you want me to?
You go first.
Okay, I'll let you tell the story of Sepulcher. I'll stick to Dawnbreaker. So when we did Dawnbreaker, we were shooting in this guy's backyard. It was like a mansion that had like this whole like medieval vibe to it. It was in February, so February in Texas gets really cold. And we were set to do about 5 hours. Well, even with 5 hours of shooting, we didn't have enough time to finish the storyboard. So it was literally like 10 p.m. at night, and it must have been like at least 30 degrees. And she's out there like in this gown and just like shivering. And I'm just like back there with the camera. I'm just yelling. I'm like, stop shivering, stop. So luckily the owner was really nice and he let us go over our allotted time. But that was just kind of one of those moments, like, what were we doing? What were we thinking? But it paid off, no pain, no gain.
That's true. Every time we are done with a music video, I swear to myself and to Clay, I'm like, I'm never suffering like that for a music video again. Next time we're gonna do X to make sure I'm not miserable. And every time we're in a music video, I'm like, why am I miserable? I'm always either freezing my ass off, or it's really hot, or I'm like just something really crazy where I'm like contorted or buried in something. Like I'm always suffering for the art, and I'm like, you know what? It looks amazing though, so I can't be mad. Going back to Clay mentioning Sepulcher, this was back when I remember we were trying to kind of keep the music video budget down, and I remember we talked about doing a lyric video, and me being as stubborn and indignant as I am, I was like, no, I'm going to do something visually appealing. It's gonna be cinematic. So I got my my Blackmagic camera out, and I went to Half Price Books, got some old books, and took the bindings off. And I was like, I had this idea to bring in some of the visuals from the DLC of Hermaeus Mora, where there's all these like books flying around. It looks really, really cool. And so I was like, I'm gonna film myself, but I need some help filming this. And so I was like, okay, Clay, you're gonna work the camera, but I also need you to pour this mixture of black paint and oil on me while we sing this. And I was like, okay, the only thing you need to do is please don't pour it on my eyes, because this is paint. Like, I don't want this on my eyes. I had contacts in too, because I was wearing these crazy contacts. And he's like, I got this. No problem. Minute 1 in, I'm like singing, and then I feel the paint just go into my eye, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna go blind for this music video. But we pushed through it. So you'll see like in the actual music video, like there's paint in my eyeball, and luckily it didn't burn too much because of the oil, but I was so terrified it was going to dry in there somehow, and I was just going to lose an eye. And then I was going, like, during the singing, I was going through the exercise of like, okay, I'm going to lose my eye and then have a bionic eye, and we're going to work it into the lore of Daedric and make it a thing. But that was fun. I mean, I think it still turned out amazing. I loved how it looked with a mixture of the lyrics and with the actual video itself. It looks awesome to me.
I'm getting a sense that before any future videos that there needs to be like additional insurance taken out on these video shoots.
Yeah. It really does. I mean, and you think we'd learn our lesson by video 4, video 5, but at this point, nothing seems daunting when we go to do a music video, because we've been through it all. We've experienced the extremes of weather. We experienced the almost loss of an eye. So it's part of the adventure. It really is. And what's funny is we've done a shoot in July of last year, something that you'll see when we drop the Nerd music video. But basically, I booked a warehouse, and they promised me they had AC. So this is July, Texas. It was 110 degrees outside. So we're in this warehouse. We have fire going, and it must have been 130 degrees. And I have my musicians back there in a mask, and my computer was overheating. It was the worst. But once again, the shots look good, and so it was worth it.
You guys are extreme.
Yeah.
Metal.
I love it. Yeah. What about to go back? We've mentioned Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, just video games in general. You guys, have a love of gaming. I just feel like I want to pull on that thread a little bit. What has gaming been to you? Any specifics you want to get into of games, or just what that has meant, personally, and how that has kind of come into the Daedric world.
Yeah, so I've always been very, very big into fantasy. I was always a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. Like anything with dragons, anything with magic, I was there. I was wanting to watch it or read it. And then I was into things like, like Pokemon, obviously, and RuneScape. I was a big RuneScape nerd. I was there. And that really helped me segue into Skyrim when it came out. It wasn't even available for Mac yet, and I only had a Mac. I was in college at the time, and so I torrented it from the Pirate Bay. I found someone that had made this hacked version of it,
Oh yeah.
and they had formatted it for Mac, and I was like, this is perfect. Of course, my computer was not equipped to handle any kind of graphics, and so I ended up burning my fan out. I had to take it to a store to replace it, but I loved it so much. I played it all the way through there, and then every new gaming system I got, I would get it and I would play it through, and I'd be like, this is a totally different experience every time. And I loved it, and I don't know, there's something about gaming where it brings in the fantasy element, but then you get to make your own choices and really create your own world out of it, and not just rely on someone else to tell the story.
And it's been great with our music, and with Kristyn's influence on gaming, we've been able to really connect with a lot of gamers. And so I think it's really important for artists and for bands to create that subculture that's not directly the music related. Find other ways to reach your audience, so that way you can build beyond just the music, whether it be fashion or whether it be gaming or something that's going to really connect with other people besides music, because then they have more than one topic to talk about with you or talk about with your fans. Now, I do wish we had more time to game. I think there's a lot of time we have fans that reach out and they're like, oh, have you tried the new Elden Ring? And we're like, no, we work all the time. I think now our gaming lives are like condensed down to like a round of Mario Party every so often.
What about to let's move topics from gaming. Actually, maybe a good segue to something else. Kristyn, you mentioned, Lord of the Rings and film and books. Although gaming gives you puts you in the driver's seat to make decisions, but film, TV, do you guys have any series or other movies that you guys have gotten really into? Is that something that you guys each enjoy when you have the time to watch things?
If it has dragons, I want to watch it. Um, I like to rewatch older cinema, but we've recently really been heavily invested in the Dune series. I fell in love with the first one, and I love that cinematography and everything that Dennis does, the director. Everything that he's touched has been incredible. We've gone back and looked through his old catalog, not realizing that we already watched those movies, and we loved them, and we thought of them as separate. But then seeing it all together, it makes sense. Like he did Blade Runner, he did um, Arrival, and you see the connection there. You see like how he creates this visual storytelling, and it's something that I would love to consider when we approach new music videos.
Yeah, I'd say more often than not, when we do music videos, we're getting influence from film and not other music videos. We just find it a lot more captivating to watch a film and see how that can translate to almost a short music video. And if we had the budget, I mean, we would go all out. But I think you see with our music videos, like, we really try and push the boundary with each one. The collab that's coming out in May with Dal it was heavily influenced by Blade Runner.
The video is super badass. I love it.
Thank you so much. But yeah, it's something, we do take a lot of influence from cinema, because we just realize it just gives more to, because there's been 20, 30 years of bands like rocking out in a room, and that element's really important for conveying the emotion of the music. But there's something very special about nailing a narrative piece that really pulls the viewer into a world of its own.
Totally. I love that. When you guys have time to listen to music, what are you guys listening to?
I wish I know the answer is not going to be fun, because it's like, oh, we're constantly listening to metal, and but
No, wherever this takes you, I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, for me, because I work full time on music, I'm typically listening to podcasts. But when I do listen to music, I really enjoy listening to the nostalgic stuff that I grew up on. Papa Roach, Linkin Park, stuff like that. Like, there's something very special about the early 2000s rock music. So that's always been like a repeat listen for me.
Sure.
I bounce around a lot. I'm listening to like hip hop and R&B. I do a lot of podcast listenings. I'm really into like the, storytelling podcasts and stuff like that. But when I do listen to music, it's just any genre. I do listen to some metal. I'm usually not as well versed like with the newer stuff. Clay's always sending me new stuff. He's like, "Hey, listen to this. Check out this new band." And that's the only way I'm really discovering new bands. Just because I tend to get stuck in like, oh, this is my comfort song or my comfort genre or whatever.
Inspirations for Daedric and how you guys approach things that you would list a handful of names.
Honestly, I think we do take a lot of marketing influence, and that's something it's not really like the exciting answer, but we're spending so much time on social media and marketing that we really try and dig in and kind of see what other people are doing and see what could work with our brand, essentially. We were actually fortunate enough to meet with a plugin designer yesterday for a big time company. I don't want to say its name, but we were actually able to pick his brain over dinner on like some of the marketing strategies he had used to really build the company up. So we're really hungry for information, really hungry for the next big thing or trying something unique.
Yeah, are there any other artists, musicians that you pull inspiration from when you're writing or creating things for Daedric?
Oh man. I would say yes. Usually it's not ones that are super close to home in terms of genre. But it's a lot of like if I hear a unique sound, I'm like, oh, that's a cool thing that I want to try for a song. Like something we did in Racing the Parallel with Dal there's kind of this war cry that we used because I had heard like a tribal cry for it, and it was something very, very interesting to me, and I was like, that'd be cool. I don't know how they did it, but I'm gonna try to do it myself. And we ended up layering it into a scream right before the end, and it was just like it sounds really cool. It sounds kind of like a guitar. Like people were confused about what it was. They're like, "What is that thing?" And it was just me like making this strange noise over the top, and it blended very like uniquely.
So we had tracked a few iterations of it, and it ended up sounding really unique and really cool, and kind of fit this like bombastic style that the song has. So I think with her, what she was referring to is just like finding unique textures and tones from other music and other cultures that she can kind of blend into our music to create something unique.
Let's talk about live music now. And to start with, I want to go from what are some of the shows or artists that you have been fans of seeing people live, and what do you enjoy most about a live show?
I haven't been to a ton of live shows just because I'm not a huge fan of crowds. But I do enjoy, the experience of it. And one of the ones I really, really liked, well, or actually a couple, was first seeing Tesseract live, then North Lane, and then we went to see Spirit Box and Bad Omens. And there's something about being able to hear the song that you like live and in a different space rather than in your car, headphones, in a normal monitor, and hearing their fresh take on it in that moment, and having that all packaged up with obviously seeing them on stage, having the lights moving around to enhance the drama of it, and feeling the room. That's the part of it that I have really enjoyed. And it's something I think about when I think about us playing live. I want to have a full performance, not just people on a stage with whatever comes with the stage. I want to have thought put into the lighting, into the visuals of it, and making sure it feels like something special for whoever's there. Because before that, I wasn't super interested in playing live, to be honest. I thought, it's not really that rewarding for me. I'm not that excited about it. And if I can just listen to the best quality version on the internet, why would I not do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. But feeling the difference for myself and actually appreciating it has changed my perspective on how I want Daedric to be presented.
I'll continue with what she was saying. All those concerts are very influential, and you see the difference when you see a band performing their music versus taking the listener and having them escape away for just a minute. Just a 30-second or 30-minute interval. Like, you're not at a show, you're at an experience, and there's something very special about that. So that's why we've been very selective with Daedric and going live, is we want to make sure that we can translate that experience to a stage and not just make it about just the performance, but more about the experience. And there'll be a lot of thought and a lot of preparation for that when we eventually do play live.
But that is in the plans, right?
It is very much in the plans.
I'm sure there are a lot of fans that will be ready for that,
Yeah.
and to come out and see you guys live, and a lot of new people to discover you through the live experience and then translate over to checking you out online.
I think so too. I think we're both, me, Kristyn and I are very, very much looking forward to it.
Working on that you guys want to tease or talk about a little bit?
Without giving too much away, but essentially we got invited to go to Atlanta to record some live performances of our songs, but the uniqueness of it is it's filmed in a three-dimensional space, and it's going to be basically an augmented reality performance for these songs. So people that are really into the new VR headsets and Oculus and stuff like that will be able to watch these performances later on as we release them. It's just something new, something cutting edge, and Kristyn and I are both really big fans of doing stuff that's unique and doing stuff that's special. And so this is going to be a great opportunity for us, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, holographic interactive, well, maybe not interactive, but holographic video.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, cutting edge. Definitely excited to check it out. Do either of you guys have like an Oculus? Have you done any virtual or augmented reality?
I've played with one a little bit, but I've never watched the performance on it. So this is going to be exciting for me as well.
It's really fun. I think you guys are going to have a blast doing that, and hopefully they can demo for you guys the other side of the experience, getting to see with a headset on what it feels like.
Oh, for sure. And while we're out there, we're going to be making kind of a mini documentary and kind of capturing the whole performance and the experience. So that way we have more to offer our fans and show them, like what we're going through for the first time, and also maybe there's something unique and for our first time for them as well. But just to tag that back to the whole social media thing, because, we are very adamant about social media. This connection came about through a social media connection. And artists might look at their social media as more of a way to reach out to fans and build a fan base, but there's like another side of it that's really exciting. It's about connecting with other musicians, connecting with other artists, and being able to link up and create something together. So this particular experience came from that. So what I can say to artists is just not be afraid to make connections online, even if you don't know this person in real life. It might be something that leads to something mutually exciting down the road.
Yeah, I feel like you guys, we've seen other evidence of that, like with guys like Andromeda. I don't know the full story on how you guys first connected, but well, maybe I do. The Rumbling cover, is that where that originally came from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He had
So I had followed him right before that. I had actually followed him on Facebook because I fell in love with Dystopian Foretold, which was one of his bigger instrumental songs, and I was just kind of like casually like, oh, I'll follow him. And I saw him post about wanting to find vocalists for the Rumbling, and I wasn't really sure. I was sure that like bigger people were going to hit him up, and then Clay convinced me to, like, let's send him some of our stuff. And so we shot him a message, and he was like, yeah, like, this sounds sick. Let's do it. And so we ended up doing the full thing, and we were both just like, this is so awesome. Like, this artist that we listen to actually, interacts with us, and we're actually going to collaborate and stuff. And obviously that led to our next, like, our first original with him. And it's been awesome because I love his style. I love his production. And I think we just blended effortlessly.
Yeah, that stuff turned out amazing. The Rumbling and then Abandon, and uh, yeah, his stuff is very, very cool. Clay, kind of want to give a chance for you to explain a little about, from the music side, what does your day-to-day look like? Like,
oof.
you are full music production, you work with other bands, you obviously are working on Daedric material. What is a life in your world, or what does a day in your life look like?
I mean, I won't lie, it can be pretty chaotic sometimes. What I try and do is, put a little section of my time out for Daedric social media, because Kristyn has a full time job. She's a marketing director at our company, so a lot of times the social media editing and creation and posting falls on my end. Um, so that's like one element, and then other than that, I'm every week I have different sessions with local bands around the Dallas area, whether it be recording, producing, or mastering their music. So I'll have a good section of my time for that. And then as of late, I've been doing a lot of video content for artists, and some of the stuff that I've been able to provide my clients has been stuff I've learned through my relationship with FiXT and through building Daedric up. So it's been really fun and really inspiring to be able to help these artists kind of learn what the industry takes and what the industry expects from bands. So, pretty much from 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m., I'm doing some variation of that. We'll take a little break and then we'll jump right back into Daedric, whether it be shooting a social media reel, editing a video, brainstorming. So there's always something to do. It can be a little hectic, and sometimes we have weekends, sometimes we don't, but it's always super fulfilling to finish a project, whether it be small or big, and then see it released into the world.
Yeah, that's great to get a little insight into your world. And Kristyn, you have kind of a two lives. You've got, you have a day job that you do, and then when you come home, are you ready to just go right into Daedric world, or do you have, or kind of three pieces to the world, like the personal, you can just detach from everything and have your own space, and then go into Daedric mode? And is that challenging for you at all?
Yeah, I would say it is a challenge to balance all the things in my life to make sure I feel not burned out. And I do work full time on a job that I actually am super passionate about. I love my job. I love the work I do. I love being able to help people and also staying creative. And it's hard to balance that effort of I'm putting 100% of myself into my work during the day, and then when I'm working on Daedric, I also put 100%, and sometimes that can take a toll. But it's hard not to argue that the rewarding times of when I wrote a new demo, or we created a new piece of content, or we finished editing a video, or whatever that is, after it's done and you see it, you can't help but feel proud and feel like that all the effort was worth it. I kind of equate it to having a kid when they talk about how exhausting it is to have a kid, and you have to invest all this time and money and energy. And that's exactly what Daedric is for me. It's worth all of the sacrifice, all of the things that I have to turn down, from the social events to the sleep to like everything that we do, like financially, and making sure that Daedric is everything that we want it to be. So I'm okay with making those sacrifices because I think it's worth it.
What are you guys looking forward to the rest of this year?
I mean, for me, album 2. I'm currently so dialed into it that I just cannot wait to have it completed and out there. I couldn't be more proud of the growth that Kristyn has shown with these new songs, and I really feel like we've hit a stride for our music.
I can't agree more. I love the direction it's going, and I love the growth that we're seeing all around, from the actual writing to the vocals that we're putting into it. I'm really proud of it, and I'm excited to share that.
And I can't wait to hear more of it. We've gotten some sneak peeks of some demos in progress on the label side, and really excited for where the rest of the album's going and to get more music into the world. Really want to thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules and your days. I know we had in closing, is there any other message you'd like to put out there to Daedric fans, to FiXT fans? We're certainly very grateful to be working with you, and to have been a part of this journey and seeing it from the ground up. That's been very exciting and rewarding to watch you guys develop and grow and build something with, that's reaching people all over the world and making an impact on lives. And that's super exciting.
You guys have really helped, and stay patient with us as far as development goes. But I think it's a great team, and I'm really excited for the future.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and lots more to come. Thank you guys again for chatting, and there'll be new